I handed my daughter a check for $170,000. It was every penny I had saved over 40 years of carrying mail on my back. The very next day, right after she closed on her new house, she pointed to the front door and screamed, "Get out! You're not welcome here!" And I just smiled as I walked away. What she didn't know is that I was waiting for her to do that. And a few months later, she lost everything. My name is Isaiah Blackwell. I'm 71 years old, and I'm learning late in life that the person you love the most, the person you sacrificed everything for, can be the one who stabs you the deepest. Before I tell you exactly what happened and exactly what I did next, please let me know in the comments where you're listening to this story from. And do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe if you believe that family should be built on respect, not on greed. It all started at a restaurant I had no business being in. The wine glass in my son-in-law's hand probably cost more than my electric bill for the entire winter. The place was called Serafina's. It was loud not with music, but with the clinking of real heavy silver and the quiet, confident laughter of people who had never worried about a utility bill in their lives. This wasn't my world. My world for 45 years had been the worn-out vinyl seat of a mail truck, the sharp smell of fresh ink on stacked envelopes, and the simple, clean quiet of my one-bedroom apartment. I was a retired postal worker. I lived on my pension. It was a simple life, an honest one. I looked across the table at my daughter Maya. She was twisting her napkin in her lap, shredding the little cloth fibers. She's done that since she was 6 years old, right after her mother, my Clara, passed away. She does it when she's nervous. It's been just me and her ever since. I raised her on a postman's salary. It wasn't much. I made sure she never went hungry. I made sure her clothes were clean, and I made sure she knew she was loved. I taught her that your character, your word, that was the only thing you truly own in this life. Looking at her now sitting next to him, I wondered if she'd forgotten that lesson. Him was Trevor, my son-in-law. Trevor was a white boy from the right side of the tracks with a smile that was too slick and shoes that cost $800. I know they cost $800 because he'd told me the last time he saw my 10-year-old work boots by the door. Trevor worked in financial consulting, which as far as I could tell was a fancy term for spending other people's money. He always called me Isaiah, never Dad or Pops, just Isaiah. Isaiah, it's about the future, Trevor started. He swirled the dark red wine in his glass, holding it by the stem like he'd seen in a movie. It's about securing Maya's future, our future. Maya jumped in, her voice too bright, too rehearsed. Daddy, we found it, the perfect house. It's in a great school district, it has a yard. It's everything we dreamed of. I tried to smile. I really did. That's wonderful, baby girl. That's all I ever wanted for you. But you know, I don't have much to help with. That's where you're wrong, Trevor interrupted, leaning in. His eyes had a strange, hungry gleam. We ran the numbers. You have your retirement savings, the pension payout from the post office, and the life insurance policy from Clara. It all adds up. My blood ran cold. He had run the numbers on my private life, on Clara's death. He's right, Daddy, Maya said. She placed her soft, manicured hand on my rough, worn one, the one with the knuckles swollen from arthritis. We're just a little short on the down payment. It's a very competitive market, you know. The interest rates... How short? I asked. My voice was quiet. I dreaded the answer. Trevor didn't blink. $170,000. The number hung in the air between us. $170,000. It wasn't just a number. It was the number. It was every single extra shift I ever pulled. It was every Christmas morning I spent delivering packages in the snow instead of watching my daughter open her presents. It was the family vacation Clara and I promised ourselves we'd take to see the ocean, but never did. Always saying we'd save that money for a rainy day. And here it was, raining. Trevor, Maya, that's everything, I whispered. That's all I have left. I'm 71 years old. I can't go back to work. I can't build that back up. That's the beauty of it, Isaiah, Trevor said, his smile getting wider, showing all his white teeth. You won't have to... Maya squeezed my hand, her grip suddenly tight. That's what we wanted to talk to you about the house. It has a fully finished basement. It's beautiful. It even has its own little bathroom and a small kitchenette area. You can sell your tiny apartment, give us the $170,000 and move in with us. will take care of you forever. A room in the basement? I repeated. My voice was flat. It's perfect, Maya insisted, her eyes shining. We'll be a real family all under one roof. You won't have to worry about rent or food or anything. You'll be investing in us, in your legacy. My legacy, I said, looking at Trevor's $800 shoes. Exactly, Trevor said. He leaned back triumphant. Think of it, Isaiah. It's a simple transaction. You give us the money, we give you a home. It's a fair trade. You're investing in your own family. You're guaranteeing you'll be taken care of in your old age. I looked at Maya. Her eyes were pleading. But what was she pleading for? For the house, or for me to agree so Trevor would be happy I couldn't tell the difference anymore. I thought about the 45 years of solitude, of raising her, of packing her lunches, of worrying every time she was late coming home from a date. I thought of Clara and her last words to me. Take care of our baby girl, Isaiah. Don't let the world break her. I let out a long, slow breath. I made myself look old. I made myself look tired. I made myself look defeated. Okay, I whispered. If it means we can all be together, if it means you'll be happy, I'll go to the bank on Monday. Maya's face lit up with a joy so bright it almost looked real. Oh, Daddy, thank you, thank you. She leaned across the table and hugged me. Her perfume was expensive. Trevor sat back, his smile victorious. He raised his wineglass to me. To family Isaiah, you won't regret this. I just nodded. I didn't smile back, because as he said that, I knew one thing for certain. He would. Monday morning. The bank was quiet the way it always is before 10 a.m. It smelled like industrial carpet cleaner and old money. I walked past the velvet rope line right up to the teller I'd known for 15 years. Morning, Brenda. I need to see Ms. Wallace if she has a minute. Brenda looked up from her screen. Isaiah, goodness, you look serious today. Of course. Go right on back. She's in her office. Diane Wallace's office was small, cluttered with pictures of her grandkids and stacks of folders. She was a sharp woman, managed this credit union branch for longer than I could remember. She stood up when she saw me, her professional smile fading a little when she saw my face. Isaiah Blackwell, sit down, sit down. What can I do for you? Everything all right with the pension deposit? I sat in the hard plastic chair across from her desk. I didn't waste time. Diane, I need to make a withdrawal, a large one. Okay, she said slowly, her hands hovering over her keyboard. How large are we talking? I slid the little withdrawal slip I'd filled out across her desk. She put on her reading glasses and looked down. I watched her face change. Her eyes widened just slightly. She looked up at me, then back at the slip as if the numbers might rearrange themselves. $170,000, she said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of disbelief. That's right, I said. Isaiah, this is everything. This is your retirement. This is your savings. This is Clara's life insurance. This is all of it. You want to close the account? I need a cashier's check, I said, my voice steady. She leaned back, taking her hands off the keyboard. This was no longer a bank manager talking to a customer. This was Diane talking to Isaiah. Are you in some kind of trouble? Is someone forcing you to do this? Isaiah, you know we have protocols for elder financial abuse. It's not a scam, Diane. It's family. It's for Maya. For Maya, she repeated. That's wonderful. She's buying a house. That's right. Her and her husband, they need help with the down payment. $170,000 for a down payment. Her voice was laced with judgment she couldn't hide. That's one hell of a house, Isaiah. They're good kids. They just need a start. A start, she said. Isaiah, this isn't a start. This is your finish line. This is everything you and Clara built. What are you going to live on? I looked past her out the window. I saw the bus stop across the street. I remember standing at that bus stop in the freezing rain for 2 years back in '95. My old Honda's transmission had died. The repair was $900. I remember looking at the repair estimate and then at the bank book for the ocean fund. Clara and I had always dreamed of seeing the Pacific. Just once. $900 was $900. So I sold the car for scrap. I took the bus. The $900 went into the jar. We never did see that ocean. Isaiah? Diane's voice brought me back. I'm moving in with them. I said. "They've got a room for me. In the basement. A nice one. I won't have to worry about rent or anything. I'll be taken care of." The look on Diane Wallace's face broke my heart. It was pity. Pure, undiluted pity. She had seen this story before. "A room in the basement," she said. "Isaiah, please. Just wait 1 week. That's all I'm asking. Talk to a lawyer, just an independent party. Let someone look at the arrangement. Don't do this today." I thought about Maya's face in the restaurant, the pleading in her eyes. "It's our only chance, Daddy." I thought about Clara's last words, "Take care of our baby girl." What choice did I have? This was my baby girl. "I appreciate your concern, Diane. I truly do, but my mind is made up. I need the check. Please, make it payable to the Oakwood Title Company." She stared at me for a long time. I could see the argument stuck in her throat. She wanted to say more. She wanted to tell me about the dozens of other old men she'd seen sitting in that same chair, emptying their lives into the hands of ungrateful children. But she didn't. She was a professional. She sighed a long, heavy breath of defeat. "All right, Isaiah," she typed into her computer. The sound of the keys was sharp final, like nails being hammered into a coffin. "It will take a few minutes to process the check." "I'll wait," I said. I stood by the teller's counter. I didn't sit down. I just stared at the clock on the wall. 10:07 a.m. I thought about Christmas Eve 1988. There was a blizzard. I was the only carrier willing to take the double overtime shift. My feet were frozen. I couldn't feel my toes until the next morning. But the paycheck, that check put another $1,000 into the account. I thought about Clara, standing in front of a department store window in 1992. There was a blue dress she wanted, $60. She looked at it for a long time. Then she just shook her head, smiled at me and said, "No, the jar is more important." The jar. It wasn't just a jar. It was our dream, our security, our whole life built $50 at a time. "Mr. Blackwell." The teller. Brenda was holding an envelope. Her hand was trembling just a little. She knew what was happening too. Everyone in the bank knew. "Here is your check, sir, and your receipt. Your new account balance is $45.20. I took the envelope. It felt impossibly light. "Thank you, Brenda." "Thank you, Diane." Diane Wallace just nodded. She wouldn't look at me. I walked out of the bank. The air outside felt different, colder. The title company office was all glass and white plastic. It smelled like new carpet and quiet panic. Maya and Trevor were already at a long, polished table. Trevor was tapping his foot, checking his gold watch every 10 seconds. Maya was shredding a paper napkin under the table. "You're late, Isaiah," Trevor said. He didn't look up from his phone. "The bank. It took some time," I said. Maya jumped up. "Daddy, you got it." Her voice was a high-pitched squeak. I took the envelope from my old coat pocket, the same coat I'd worn on my mail route for the last 10 winters. I slid it across the table. Trevor's hand shot out and snatched it before it even stopped moving. He ripped the envelope open, his eyes darting immediately to the check. He wasn't checking the name of the title company, he was just checking the number. A slow smile spread across his face. 170,000. Perfect. He looked at the closing agent, a young woman in a sharp suit who looked like she was in a hurry. "We're good to go. The down payment is secured." He didn't say thank you. Maya hugged me. "Oh, Daddy, thank you, thank you." It was a fast hug, all sharp angles and expensive perfume. She pulled away before I could even pat her on the back. "This is it, Isaiah," Trevor said, already signing the first of a mountain of papers. "You just invested in our future. You won't regret this." "We won't let you," Maya added, her smile bright and brittle. "Just wait until you see the basement. We're going to put a nice rug down there for you. It'll be so cozy." "Cozy," I repeated. "That sounds nice." They signed, and signed, and signed. Trevor's signature was a fast, arrogant scribble. Maya's was shaky, uncertain. I just stood by the wall, invisible. Finally, the agent smiled. She pushed a set of keys across the table. "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Davies. You are officially homeowners." Trevor grabbed the keys, jingling them in his hand. The sound was loud in the quiet room. "We did it, baby," he said, pulling Maya in for a kiss. It looked more like a business transaction than a celebration. They stood up. Okay, Isaiah, Trevor said, clapping me on the shoulder. We've got a million things to do. Movers are coming tomorrow. Remember Saturday morning for you. And please, just the essentials. We're going for a very clean, minimalist look. We don't want your, old junk cluttering up the new start. My old junk. The picture of Clara. My favorite armchair. My entire life. I understand, I said. Saturday morning. Just the essentials. Great. We'll see you then. They walked out. They didn't look back. I heard them laughing as they got to the elevator. Maya was talking about paint colors. Trevor was talking about a housewarming party. I was left alone in the cold white office. The closing agent was already on her computer, her fingers flying across the keys, already moving on to the next deal. I reached into my pocket. I still had the receipt from the bank. Balance $45.20. I clutched the piece of paper in my hand. 40 years. Gone in 40 minutes. Saturday morning, 9 o'clock. The rain was that cold, miserable kind. The kind that doesn't shout, it just seeps into your bones. I paid the cab driver and stepped out onto the sidewalk, a street I'd never seen before. This was it. The new neighborhood. The houses were huge. Too huge. They were built so close together you could probably pass a cup of sugar to your neighbor from the bathroom window. They were all painted in these sterile colors, gray, beige, and a weird shade of white that hurt my eyes. And there was hers. Maya's. It was a modern farmhouse, she'd called it. Big white with black trim, and a yard that was just patches of mud and plastic wrap from the builders. A brand new BMW sat in the driveway, shining in the wet. Trevor's car, not Maya's. I stood there on the curb. A 71-year-old man in my cleanest threadbare coat, the one I'd worn on my mail route for the last 10 winters. In one hand I held my suitcase. It was an old brown leather one, the handle wrapped in duct tape where the stitching had given out in '98. In my other hand I held a picture frame wrapped in a plastic grocery bag to keep the rain off. It was my wedding photo, me and Clara. $170,000. 40 years of my life. It had bought this. It had bought my baby girl a house. I felt a strange pang in my chest. It was pride, I guess, but it was tangled up with something else, something heavy, something that felt a lot like fear. I'd given up my little apartment, the one I'd lived in for 30 years, the one where Maya grew up, the one where Clara died. I'd sold the old furniture, I'd given away my pots and pans. Everything I owned was in this one scuffed suitcase. Well, I told myself, this is it. This is the new start. This is what you saved for, to be taken care of, to be with family. I walked up the brand new concrete path. It didn't even have a crack in it yet. I rang the doorbell. I heard music inside, something loud with a heavy beat. I heard laughter. I waited. The rain started coming down a little harder, plastering my thin hair to my head. I rang the bell again. The music stopped. I heard footsteps, heavy and slow. The door swung open. It was Trevor. He was wearing a dark blue silk robe, that's all. Just a robe tied loosely at the waist. His feet were bare on the shiny hardwood floor. He was holding a tall, thin glass filled with something orange, a mimosa. He stared at me. He wasn't smiling. Isaiah, he said. His voice was thick with annoyance. What are you doing here? It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I swallowed. I tried to smile. It's Saturday morning. You said I could move in today. I brought my things. I held up the suitcase as if for inspection. Trevor looked at the suitcase, then he looked at my face, then he looked at my old wet shoes on his brand new welcome mat. He looked at me the way you look at a stray dog that just showed up on your porch. Oh, he said. He sighed, a long, impatient breath. Right, that. Look, Isaiah, this isn't a good time. We're busy. Busy, I said. I can be quiet. I'll just go down to my room. The basement room. I won't be any trouble, I promise. I just need to get out of the rain. I tried to take a small step inside. Trevor put his hand flat on my chest. He didn't push me. He just held me there. Whoa, easy, he said. You're dripping all over the floor. Daddy, Maya appeared behind him. She was also in a robe, a pink fluffy one. Her hair was piled on top of her head. She saw me, and her face, it just froze. It wasn't joy, it wasn't welcome, it was panic. Daddy, oh my God, today I thought we said next Saturday. No, baby girl, I said, my voice starting to tremble. You said this Saturday. I wrote it down. Remember, at the Italian restaurant. You said, "Come over Saturday morning, Daddy. We'll get you settled." Maya looked at Trevor. He gave her a look. A cold, sharp, impatient look. And just like that, my daughter's face changed. The panic vanished and something hard settled in its place. "Yeah, well," Trevor said, taking a sip of his mimosa. "Plans changed. Look, Isaiah, we've been thinking." He let his hand drop from my chest, but he still blocked the doorway. "Having you here, in the house, it's an invasion of our privacy, you understand. We're newlyweds. We need space." The words didn't make sense. My mind couldn't catch up with them. Invasion of privacy. But the promise, the agreement. You said I would have a home here. You said I'd be taken care of. That's why I gave you the money. Trevor actually laughed. It was a short, sharp bark of a laugh. "Taken care of? You're a 71-year-old man, Isaiah. Take care of yourself. The money, the $170,000, that was an investment. You invested in our future. We're grateful, we really are. But the deal didn't include this." He waved his mimosa at me at my suitcase at my old coat. I couldn't look at him. I could only look at my daughter. "Maya," I whispered. "Baby girl, what is he talking about? Tell him. Tell him what you promised me. You promised me a home." Maya wouldn't look at me. She stared at a spot on the wall just past my ear. "Daddy, Trevor's right. It's not going to work out. We need our own life. We can't be burdened." Burdened. That was the word she used. My voice cracked. I hated it. I hated how weak I sounded. "Burdened, Maya, I am your father. I gave you everything. I gave you my entire life savings. My whole life. I gave up my apartment. I sold my furniture. I have nowhere else to go. Where am I supposed to go?" And that's when she finally looked at me. And the person looking back wasn't my daughter. It was a stranger. A cold, hard stranger. "I don't know," she screamed. The word echoed in the big empty foyer. "Go to a shelter. Go to the YMCA. Go back to the post office and beg for your old root. That's not my problem anymore." Not your problem," I stammered. "Maya, I am your family. And you embarrass me, okay?" Her voice was a shriek now, a raw, ugly sound I had never heard from her. "You embarrass me. Trevor has his colleagues coming over tonight. His boss is coming for dinner. What am I supposed to say, huh? Oh yes, welcome to our beautiful new home. Don't mind my father, the poor broke retired mailman. He lives in the basement like a rat. Is that what you want? Is it? Rat. Broke. Embarrass me." The rain was cold, but this was a cold I had never felt before. This was the cold of a dead heart. Trevor stepped back, pulling Maya against him. He wrapped his arm around her waist. He was smiling now, a small, cruel, victorious smile. "You heard the lady, old man. Get out." Maya didn't say anything else. She just glared at me. "But the money," I whispered one last time. "My money, my $170,000. "That was a gift, Isaiah," Trevor said, his voice smooth as silk. "You gave it to your daughter. There's no contract. There's no deal. You gave it to us. You did your part. And now we're done." "Get out," Maya screamed again. "Just get out of my life. I don't want to see you go." The door slammed shut in my face. The force of it almost made me stumble back. I heard the sound of the deadbolt sliding into place. A heavy, final click. I stood there, on the perfect welcome mat, in the cold Saturday rain. My suitcase was at my feet. The picture of Clara still wrapped in plastic was in my hand. I couldn't breathe. It felt like the world had just stopped. 40 years of saving, 45 years of love, all of it, gone. For this, for a white house with black trim, for a silk robe, for a glass of champagne. I looked at the closed door. I looked at my suitcase. I looked down at my old wet shoes. I felt a tear, just one, roll down my cheek and mix with the rain. I should have been destroyed. I should have been broken. I should have sat down on that step and wept. But I didn't. I felt the emptiness. I felt the cold. I felt the absolute crushing weight of the betrayal. And then, something else happened. I wiped the rain from the picture of Clara. I set my jaw. I picked up the handle of my one scuffed suitcase. And I smiled. It was a small smile. Just a twitch at the corner of my mouth. A gift, I thought. No contract. I turned my back to the house. I started walking down the long, curved driveway. That's where you're wrong, Trevor, I thought to myself as the rain started to pour. That's where you're both so wrong. You called it a transaction. You're right, it was. And you just breached the contract. I reached the sidewalk. I didn't look back. I just kept walking in the rain, a 71-year-old man with one suitcase and a strange, cold smile on my face. I stood on that curb for a long time. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe 20. The rain didn't bother me. The cold was nothing. It was the silence after the slam of that door, the final heavy click of the deadbolt. That's the sound that will stay with me. I picked up my old suitcase. I tucked the plastic-wrapped photo of Clara inside my coat against my chest, and I started walking. I didn't walk toward the bus stop. I didn't walk toward the nearest shelter like my daughter had screamed at me to do. I just walked. I walked past the rows of identical, oversized houses in that sterile neighborhood. I walked until the pristine sidewalks turned into the cracked, familiar pavement of the city. The rain plastered my old coat to my skin. I must have looked like exactly what they called me. A poor, broke, homeless old man. A burden. A rat. I kept walking. I walked right past the YMCA. I walked past the bus station. I walked for nearly 2 miles until I was standing in the center of downtown. The financial district. The tall glass buildings looked like shiny wet canyons in the rain. I stopped in front of the Grand Royale Hotel. The building stood 28 stories tall. A massive revolving glass door spun slowly, spilling warm golden light onto the wet marble steps. A doorman dressed in a heavy green coat with gold buttons stood under a brass canopy. He was a young man, sharp professional. He watched me as I approached. I walked right up the steps. I was dripping water all over his clean rubber mat. I was holding a suitcase with duct tape on the handle. I looked like I was there to wash the dishes, not to check in. He looked at me. I looked at him. And just as I was about to speak, his eyes widened, not with disgust, not with annoyance, with recognition. "Mr. Blackwell," he said, his voice dropping low, his posture snapping straight. "Good morning, sir. We've been expecting you. You're soaked. Please come in, sir. Let me take that." He didn't reach for my suitcase. He reached for my coat. "Thank you, Michael," I said quietly. "It's a rough day out there." "I see that, sir," he said, holding the heavy glass door open for me. "Mr. Patel is already upstairs. He arrived about an hour ago. He said to send you up the moment you arrived." "Thank you." I stepped inside. The lobby was like a cathedral. It was silent except for a piano playing softly somewhere in the distance. The air smelled like old leather and new flowers. The carpet was so thick my old shoes sank into it. The manager rushed out from behind the front desk. "Mr. Blackwell, sir. A pleasure, as always. Your coat, please. We'll have it dried and pressed immediately." I handed him the old wet coat, the one Trevor called junk. The manager treated it like it was made of sable. "The private elevator is ready for you, sir. The presidential suite, as requested." "Thank you," I said. I walked across the lobby holding my one scuffed suitcase. I stepped into the private elevator. Michael used a special key, and the doors slid shut. My daughter Maya sees an old mailman. My son-in-law Trevor sees a broke old fool. What they don't see, what they never bothered to find out, is that I am the man who has owned a majority stake in the company that owns this hotel chain since 1994. The elevator doors opened directly into the suite. The room was bigger than the entire first floor of Maya's new house. A fire was roaring in a massive stone fireplace. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed a panoramic 30-story view of the rainy city below. A man was standing by the window, his back to me. He was tall, thin, and wore a perfectly tailored dark gray suit. He was stirring a cup of tea. He turned as I entered. "Isaiah, you're soaked to the bone." "It's raining, Anand," I said, setting my suitcase down on a carpet that probably cost more than my first car. "Mr. Anand Patel, my lawyer, my financial advisor, my friend. For 30 years, the only man on earth who knows my full truth. The suite is ready. he said, gesturing to the room. I took the liberty of ordering your preferred tea, and there's a hot bath drawn in the master. Thank you. I walked over to the fire, holding my cold, arthritic hands out to the warmth. Anand watched me. He didn't rush. He just waited. So, he said finally, it is done. It is done. And did it go as you predicted? I looked into the flames. I saw Maya's face twisted in that final moment of rage. Get out! You embarrass me. It went worse than I predicted, Anand, and better than I could have hoped. I turned to face him. She actually screamed it. She told me to go to a shelter. She called me a rat, her. Anand just nodded. He showed no surprise. And the breach of contract. She breached it completely, explicitly, loudly, right on the doorstep. Were there witnesses? Just Trevor, I said. But that's all right. I reached into the inside pocket of my damp shirt. I pulled out a small, waterproof digital audio recorder, the size of my thumb. I had this, I said. A slow, satisfied smile spread across Anand Patel's face. My goodness, Isaiah. You really were a mailman, always prepared for the weather. I recorded the entire conversation at the restaurant 2 nights ago, I said. The promise of the basement room, a home for life. We'll take care of you. It's all there. And then I recorded the entire conversation on the doorstep this morning. The get out, the you're not my problem, the burden. It's crystal clear. She breached the oral contract, Anand said, his voice sharp and focused. The conditions of the gift were explicitly violated. I sat down in one of the plush armchairs. It felt like sinking into a cloud. He called it an investment, I said. He called it a transaction. He said the deal didn't include this. I gestured to myself. He said, we're done. He has no idea, Anand murmured. Trevor thinks he's smart. He thinks he's a financial wizard. He ran the numbers on Isaiah Blackwell, retired postal worker. He found the pension. He found the savings account. He found the small life insurance policy Clara left me. He found the $170,000. He didn't find the other account. He didn't run the numbers on IB Holdings LLC. In 1981, I was 37 years old. My friend from the Army, Jerry, a brilliant crazy kid, called me. He said he was starting a computer company in his garage in California. He said it was a crazy idea, but he needed $5,000. It was all the inheritance my father had left me. Clara and I talked about it. We could have fixed the roof. We could have bought a new car. Clara said, he's your friend Isaiah, and he sounds smart. Let's bet on him. I sent Jerry the $5,000. I thought I'd never see it again. The company was called TriStar Solutions. It didn't make computers. It made the little operating systems inside the computers. 10 years later, in 1991, TriStar Solutions was bought by a small, aggressive company called Microsoft. My $5,000 bet became $5 million. I remember staring at the bank statement. Clara and I sat at our little kitchen table. We looked at the numbers. We looked at each other. We didn't celebrate. We didn't cheer. We just got very quiet, and we made a decision we wouldn't change. We didn't want to move. We didn't want to raise Maya in that world, a world of Trevors. We didn't want her to become the person who slammed the door in my face this morning. So I kept carrying the mail. Clara kept working part-time at the library. And we called Anand Patel. We gave him the $5 million. We told him to hide it, invest it, make it grow, make it silent. And he did. It grew to 10 million, then 20. After the dot-com bubble, it grew again. Today, my net worth is $45 million. And my own daughter, my only child, just screamed at me to go to a shelter for $170,000. The $170,000 wasn't my investment money. That was real money. That was my money. The money Clara and I saved from my paycheck, $50 at a time. The money we bled for. The money we gave up our dreams for. And that's the only money I gave her. Anand, I said, my voice hard. The trap. Is it set? It is, he said. He walked over to a beautiful mahogany desk and picked up a leather-bound folder. The $170,000 was legally structured as a conditional gift agreement. I have your recording from the restaurant. I also have Diane Wallace at the credit union who is prepared to testify that you expressed clear reluctance and only proceeded after stating it was a conditional loan for a home to live in. She is also prepared to testify that you were concerned about your daughter's husband. Good. So the breach is clean. It's perfect, Anand said. By the terms of the agreement you and I drafted the moment that condition your housing was violated, the gift immediately converts to a demand loan due in full with interest within 30 days. They don't have $30, let alone $170,000, I said. They spent it all on the down payment. I know. Anand smiled. And that's the beauty of it. We won't ask for the money back. We don't need to. What do? We file a lis pendens against the property, a notice of a pending lawsuit. It freezes the asset. They won't be able to sell it. They won't be able to refinance it. They won't even be able to get a credit card using the house as equity. He continued, the moment that lien hits the county records, the bank that holds their mortgage will get an alert. They will see that their primary collateral is compromised by a superior claim, mine. They will immediately call the mortgage due. I leaned back. But they can't pay it. They have no money. They're leveraged to their breaking point. Exactly, Anand said. They'll lose the house. The bank will foreclose within the month. And my $170,000, it will be wiped out, eaten by the bank during the foreclosure. It will be gone along with the house. Good, I said. Anand paused. He looked at me with those kind, sharp eyes. Isaiah, are you sure this is your daughter? Your baby girl? This will destroy her. This will bankrupt her. I stood up. I walked to the massive window. I looked down at the rainy city below. I saw the ant-sized people rushing to get out of the cold. I thought of my wife's grave. I thought of her words. Take care of our baby girl. She called me a rat, Anand. I turned to face him. She told me I wasn't her problem. She told me to go to a shelter. She and that man, they stood there and laughed while I was standing in the rain. She's not my baby girl anymore. She's his wife. She's a stranger. My voice was shaking, but not from weakness. It was shaking with a cold, clean rage I hadn't felt in 40 years. Send the letters, Anand. File the lien. Do it now. I spent the next 3 days in that suite. I didn't leave. I didn't need to. The world came to me. I ordered room service. Not the $90 steaks Trevor would have ordered, but simple, perfect things. A perfectly cooked omelet in the morning. A glass of orange juice so fresh it tasted like sunshine. A pot of coffee that was strong enough to wake the dead. I sat by that massive window wearing a thick hotel robe that felt like a cloud, and I just watched the city. I watched the rain stop and the people return to the streets rushing and hurrying. I had lived a lie of poverty for so long I had almost forgotten what this felt like, this quiet, this power. On the third day, I decided to share the joke. I called my oldest friend, Gene Washington. Gene and I had started at the post office on the exact same day in 1975. We'd carried bags together for 40 years. He was the only one who came to Clara's funeral and didn't offer me pity. He just handed me a small flask of whiskey and a firm handshake that said everything. His voice on the phone was a familiar gravelly rumble. Isaiah, man, I heard what happened with your girl. Diane at the credit union. Her cousin knows my wife and she said you emptied the whole account. Are you okay? Did they take everything, man? I smiled. Gene, I'm fine. I'm better than fine, but I need you to do me a favor. Can you come downtown? Downtown where the shelter on 5th, I'm on my way. No, Gene, not the shelter. I need you to come to the Grand Royale Hotel. Ask for the presidential suite. They'll let you up. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, just static. Isaiah, he said, his voice slow, did you fall and hit your head on that walk? What in the world are you talking about? Just come, I said, and wear your good shoes. An hour later, the private elevator doors opened and Gene stood there. He was wearing his Sunday suit, the dark blue one he wore to church. He looked completely lost. He stepped onto the thick carpet. He looked at the fireplace. He looked at the marble bar. He looked at the 2-story windows. Then he looked at me. I was sitting on a plush sofa in my robe eating a small bowl of fresh strawberries. "I'll be damned," Gene whispered. He walked over to the window and looked down at the city. "Isaiah, what in the hell is going on? Did you rob a bank? Did you finally hit that lottery you never played?" I smiled and stood up to hug him. "Neither, old friend. Sit down, have a strawberry. Do you remember Jerry from my army days? The one I lent $5,000 to back in '81? The crazy computer kid with the wild hair?" "Yeah, I remember. You said that money was long gone." "Well," I said, pouring him a cup of tea, "he wasn't that crazy. Let me tell you a story." I told him everything. The investment, the Microsoft buyout, the $45 million, Anand Patel, the long 40-year lie, the reason for the lie. Gene just sat there, his mouth open, holding a strawberry halfway to his mouth. Then he started to laugh. It wasn't a small laugh, it was a deep, rolling laugh that shook his whole body. He put the strawberry down and slapped his knee. $45 million. 45. And you were complaining to me last month about the price of stamps. Habit, I said, shrugging, and Maya, and that slick white boy son-in-law of hers. My smile faded. They slammed the door in my face 3 days ago, told me to go to a shelter, called me a rat. Gene's laughter stopped instantly. His face hardened. They did what? They took the bait, Gene. They took the 170,000, and then they kicked me to the curb. Gene looked at me, his eyes filled with a new kind of respect. "Isaiah Blackwell, you are the coldest, smartest son of a gun I have ever known. So what happens now?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. It wasn't the fancy hotel phone on the desk. It was my simple 10-year-old flip phone, the one I kept in the pocket of my old work pants. I looked at the screen. The name flashed, Maya. Gene raised an eyebrow. "Showtime," he whispered. I picked up the phone. I flipped it open. I pressed the speaker button. "Hello?" I said. My voice was calm, maybe a little tired. "Daddy. Daddy. Oh my God, where are you? Are you okay?" Her voice was high, frantic. The voice of a terrified, loving daughter. It was a good performance, almost believable. "I'm fine, baby girl. Why? What's wrong?" "What's wrong?" she shrieked. "Daddy, we haven't heard from you in 3 days. I've been calling your apartment, but the number is disconnected. I went by there and the landlord said you moved out. He said you sold all your furniture. We thought something terrible happened. We were about to call the police." Such concern, such panic. They hadn't called my phone once in 72 hours. They were just angry because I hadn't disappeared neatly. "Oh, don't worry about me, Maya. I'm perfectly safe." "Where are you?" she demanded. "Did you go to a shelter? Trevor and I can come pick you up." We didn't mean it, Daddy. It was just a misunderstanding. We were stressed from the move." "A misunderstanding," I repeated. "No, I'm not at a shelter, Maya. I'm at a hotel." "A hotel? Oh, thank God. Which one? A Motel 6. I'll send Trevor right now. You must be spending all your pocket money." I looked at Gene. He was covering his mouth with his hand to keep from laughing. "No, not a Motel 6. I'm at the Grand Royale, downtown." The pause. The silence on the other end of the line was absolute. I could hear her faint, sharp breathing. "The Grand Royale," she stammered. "Daddy, that's the most expensive hotel in the city." "Is it?" I said, feigning surprise. "Well, it's very comfortable. They have wonderful tea. But how can you afford that? That's impossible. You gave us all your money." There it was. The fake concern was gone. The real greedy, confused Maya was back. "Oh, I didn't give you all my money, baby girl. I just gave you the money I wanted you to have." "What? What are you talking about, Daddy? You're not making any sense. You sound confused. Maybe we should come get you. What room are you in?" "The presidential suite," I said, taking a sip of my tea. "It's lovely. You can see the whole city from here. It's funny, I actually own the company that owns this building." More silence. I could hear a faint whispering. She was talking to Trevor, her hand over the receiver. "Daddy," she said, her voice strained. That's not funny. Are you sick? Did you fall? Are you with someone? Did someone take you there? I'm with my oldest friend, Jean. You remember Jean from the post office. We're just fine. I don't understand, she whispered. Her voice was shaking now, but not with fake worry. It was real fear. The money, Daddy. The 170,000. My house. Ah, yes, the house, I said. That's why I'm glad you called. I was worried you might not be checking your mail at the new address. The mail. What about the mail? Well, I had my lawyer send you a letter. You should have received it this morning. It's about that gift I gave you. It seems there's been what did you call it? A misunderstanding. You should probably go check your mailbox, Maya. A lawyer, Daddy, what did you do? I just protected my legacy, Maya, like you and Trevor suggested. Now, if you'll excuse me, Jean and I are about to order some dinner. Goodbye. I flipped the phone shut. Jean stared at me, his eyes wide. Isaiah Blackwell, he said, shaking his head. You are one cold, cold man. No, Jean, I said, pouring him a cup of tea. I'm just a mailman, and I always deliver the mail. Sure do. The new house was silent, but it wasn't the peaceful silence of a new home. It was the cold, sterile silence of unopened boxes and unhung pictures. Maya sat on the top step of the grand staircase, the one she'd dreamed about, but now it just felt like a block of cold wood. She was holding her phone. I've called every shelter in the downtown area, Trevor. He's not at any of them. I even called the YMCA. Nothing. Trevor was in the new, gleaming white kitchen, trying to figure out how the built-in espresso machine worked. He was still in his silk robe, even though it was almost noon. Would you relax? He snapped, banging the side of the machine. He's a 71-year-old man. He's probably sitting on a park bench somewhere feeling sorry for himself. He'll turn up at a shelter tonight, and then you can stop this. But what if he's hurt? It's been 3 days. He has no money, Trevor. We took all his money. We didn't take anything, Trevor said, finally getting the machine to hiss. It was a gift. He gave it to us. He's a grown man. He can't just disappear. It's irresponsible. Maya looked at him, her eyes wide. Irresponsible. He's irresponsible. We kicked him out, Trevor. We slammed the door in his face. We were stressed, Trevor yelled back, his voice echoing in the empty, high-ceilinged room. It was a misunderstanding. He shows up unannounced, dripping rain all over the new floor. What did he expect? He expected the room we promised him. Semantics, Trevor scoffed, taking a sip of his espresso. Look, he'll be fine. He's probably at some fleabag motel spending the last of his pocket change. He'll come crawling back in a week, apologize, and we'll figure out what to do with him then. What if he goes to the police? Trevor finally stopped and looked at her. He walked from the kitchen into the foyer, his bare feet slapping on the marble. And say what Maya, my daughter and son-in-law, convinced me to give them a gift. They promised me a room and then changed their minds. That's not a crime. It's just family drama. He has no contract. He has no leverage. He has nothing. He pointed to the walls around them. This is our house. The deed is in our names. The mortgage is in our names. He's not on a single piece of paper. As far as the law is concerned, Isaiah Blackwell doesn't exist. Maya wanted to argue, but the sound of the doorbell made her jump. It was a sharp, insistent ring. Trevor rolled his eyes. Great. Probably his colleagues from the stupid post office forming a search party. Get rid of them. Maya ran to the door and looked through the peephole. It wasn't a mailman. It was a man in a crisp uniform. A courier. She opened the door. Can I help you? Certified mail for Mr. Trevor Davies and Ms. Maya Blackwell Davies. Trevor came up behind her. That's us. Sign for it, Maya. Maya signed the digital pad, and the courier handed her a thick, heavy 9x12 envelope. It was made of expensive cream-colored cardstock. She closed the door. She looked at the return address. Trevor. It's from a law firm. Patel and Associates. Trevor's annoyed expression vanished, replaced by a slow, arrogant smirk. He actually did it, he chuckled. The old fool actually went and hired a lawyer. What's he going to do, sue us with what money? He's pathetic. He snatched the envelope from her and ripped it open, scattering strips of paper onto the marble floor. He pulled out a thick, folded document. This is hilarious, Trevor said, scanning the first page. He started to read it aloud in a mocking, dramatic voice. Dear Mr. Davies and Ms. Blackwell Davies. It has come to our attention that you have entered into a binding oral agreement, blah blah, in exchange for a conditional gift of $170,000, blah blah. The explicit condition of said gift being the procurement of lifelong housing and care for our client, Mr. Isaiah Blackwell. Trevor was laughing. Oral agreement. He thinks that will hold up in court. That's not a thing. Trevor, stop, Maya said, her voice trembling. What does it say? It says, Trevor continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm, that by forcibly ejecting our client from the premises, oh, dramatic, you have committed a material breach of said agreement. Therefore, the conditional gift has, as of 9:15 a.m. Saturday, November 2nd, immediately and irrevocably converted to a demand loan due in full within 30 days. He paused, then burst out laughing again. Due in full, he wants his money back. Oh, this is rich. This is priceless. He's going to sue us, Maya whispered, her face pale. Let him, Trevor shouted, tossing the letter onto the counter. Who cares? We don't have the money. It's in the house, and he is not on the deed. He has no claim. This is just a scare tactic from some bargain bin lawyer. This letter is garbage. He has zero leverage. Trevor, Maya said, her voice barely audible. There's a second page. What another threat? Trevor scoffed. He picked up the letter again, annoyed. He turned the heavy page over. It says, Exhibit A Addendum of Client Assets. What the hell is that? Trevor unfolded the second page. It wasn't a letter. It was a spreadsheet, a long single-page document. He stared at it. His mocking smile froze. His face went slack. Trevor, Maya said. Trevor, what is it? You're scaring me. He didn't answer. He just stood there, his eyes scanning the page, his knuckles turning white as he gripped the paper. Trevor, she yelled, running over and grabbing it from him. She looked at the paper. At the top, in crisp, professional letterhead, it said, Patel and Associates, Private Wealth Management and Global Asset Portfolios. And below that, a title, Confidential Net Worth Statement for Client Mr. Isaiah Blackwell. And then the lines, line item TriStar Solutions, Microsoft Original Holding, line item T-bills and municipal bonds, line item Real Estate Holdings, Grand Royale Hotel Group, majority stake, line item Offshore Trust, Zurich, line item Liquid Assets. Maya's eyes scanned down past the long list of numbers that made no sense until she reached the bottom. Total estimated net worth. She read the number. She read it again. It wasn't possible. It was a typo. $45 million. The espresso cup slipped from Trevor's hand. It shattered on the white marble floor, the dark liquid splashing across the legs of his silk robe. He didn't even notice. He just stared at the paper in Maya's hand. No, he whispered. His face was the color of chalk. No, that's a lie. That's a fake. That's impossible. Trevor, Maya said, her entire body shaking. The hotel. He said he was at the Grand Royale. He said he owned it. He's a mailman, Trevor roared, but his voice was cracking. It was a scream of pure, undiluted terror. He grabbed the paper and looked at it again. He saw the official seal, the notary stamp, the signature of Anand Patel. $45 million, he whispered again, sinking onto one of the new bar stools. He looked at Maya. The arrogance was gone. The confidence was gone. All that was left was the raw, horrified understanding of a man who had just realized he didn't just slam the door on an old mailman. He had just slammed the door on a king. I spent the next morning in the quiet of the presidential suite. I sat by the window, not looking at the view, just listening to the silence. It's a different kind of quiet when you have money. It's not just the absence of noise, it's the absence of worry. It's the sound of thick carpets and heavy doors and the knowledge that no bill is coming that you can't pay. It was a silence I had earned and a silence I had hidden from my own family for their own good. Or so I'd told myself. Now I wasn't so sure. Maybe I hadn't been protecting Maya. Maybe I'd just been practicing for this very moment. Anand Patel sat across from me in a plush armchair, a laptop open on his knees. He was a man who was comfortable in silence. The lien is filed, Isaiah, he said, not looking up from his screen. As of 8:01 a.m., the county recorder's office shows a primary lien on their new property filed by IB Holdings. The bank's mortgage just officially moved into second position. Good, I said, sipping my tea. How long before the bank reacts? They're a big bank, Anand said. Their systems will flag it by noon. A junior analyst will panic. It will be on a vice president's desk by 3. Maya and Trevor will get a certified letter by tomorrow morning. They're about to have a very, very bad day. I nodded. The house is one thing. That's just brick and wood. But what about the man? What about Trevor? Anand stopped typing. Trevor Davies. Yes, I did the research you asked for last week. He's a senior vice president at Crestview Wealth Management. I let out a short, hard laugh. Senior vice president. They give that title to every salesman who manages to keep a job for 5 years. Perhaps, Anand said, a small, cold smile playing on his lips. But as a licensed financial advisor, he is bound by the rules of his trade. FINRA regulations, specifically Rule 2010, Standards of Commercial Honor, and Rule 2111, Suitability. Very dry, boring rules, but they have teeth. Spare me the legal numbers, Anand. What does it mean in plain English? Anand leaned forward, closing his laptop. It means, Isaiah, that he is legally and ethically bound not to defraud the elderly, and he is especially bound not to defraud an elderly, high-net-worth client of his own firm. My turn to pause. I put my teacup down. A client of his firm. Oh yes, Anand said. Your IB Holdings Trust, the one that holds the $45 million. It's managed by Crestview's private offshore division, the one in Zurich. Trevor doesn't have the security clearance to even see your name in the system. He works in the retail branch managing retirement accounts for dentists and lawyers. He's a guppy Isaiah, and you are one of their foundational whale clients. This was good. This was very good. He has no idea, I whispered. He has no idea, Anand confirmed. He thought he found a week-old mailman. He thought he'd hit the jackpot by marrying your daughter. He never realized he was a guppy trying to swallow the entire shark tank. Good, I said. He needs to learn what happens when a guppy gets greedy. He called me old junk. He said our deal was done. He needs to learn that I'm the one who decides when we're done. What do you want to do? Anand asked. A letter from my office. It would be devastating. No, I said. I stood up and walked over to the heavy mahogany desk. A letter is too slow. This one needs to be personal. I picked up the heavy hotel phone. I dialed the main switchboard for Crestview Wealth Management. Yes, I'd like to speak to Mr. Charles Harrison, please. The CEO. Anand raised an eyebrow. You're going straight to the top. When your mail is this important, I said, you don't give it to a rookie. You hand it directly to the Postmaster General. A crisp professional voice came on the line. Mr. Harrison's office. Yes, this is Isaiah Blackwell. I'm calling for Charles. Please tell him it's regarding my TriStar account. He'll know what it means. I'd only met Harrison a few times years ago at formal shareholder meetings. He wouldn't remember my face, but he would absolutely remember the name of the account that started it all. The assistant's tone changed instantly. The professional frost melted. One moment, Mr. Blackwell. I'm putting you through immediately, sir. The line clicked once. Isaiah Blackwell. The voice was a deep, booming baritone, the sound of old money and new power. My goodness, man, it's been, 15 years? How are you? I'm well. Charles, thank you for taking my call. For you, anything. What's on your mind? The portfolio is performing beautifully. Anand is a wizard as always. The portfolio is fine, Charles. The problem is a personal one. It's about one of your employees. The line went completely, utterly silent. I could almost hear the man's blood pressure spiking. A compliance nightmare is the one thing these men fear more than death. Who? He said. His voice was no longer friendly. It was ice. A young man named Trevor Davies. I believe he works in your downtown retail branch. I don't know him, Harrison said dismissively. What did he do? He's my son-in-law, Charles. And 3 days ago, he and my daughter convinced me, a 71-year-old retiree, to liquidate my entire local savings account, $170,000. They did this under the false pretense of giving me a home with them. I paused. The day after I gave them the check, they kicked me out onto the street. They told me, and I quote, to go to a shelter. I heard a sharp intake of breath. Isaiah, are you telling me an employee of this firm committed financial elder abuse against you, one of our own clients? That's exactly what I'm telling you, Charles. He called me a broke old mailman. He laughed in my face. He called it a transaction. I have it all on audio recording. Jesus Christ, Harrison whispered. The corporate speak was gone. He sounded genuinely horrified. Isaiah, I am profoundly sorry. This is unthinkable. Yes, it is, I said calmly. I'm handing the matter over to my legal team, of course. Anand Patel is filing the necessary paperwork as we speak. But I felt as a courtesy I should let you know personally, before this hits the papers. The papers, he stammered. When you're dealing with a $45 million client being defrauded by his own son-in-law, Charles, the papers tend to get interested, especially when that son-in-law works for your firm. It's a bad look. No, he said much too quickly. No papers. Isaiah, please. Let me handle this. Let me make this right. This is not who we are at Crestview. I'm glad to hear it, Charles. I'll let you get to work. Thank you, Isaiah. And, my God, I'll call you back within the hour. And I hung up the phone. Anand Patel was staring at me, a look of pure, unadulterated admiration on his face. That, he said, was a work of art, Isaiah. That, I said, was just delivering the mail. We didn't have to wait an hour. We waited exactly 15 minutes. My phone didn't ring. Anand's personal cell phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and smiled. That, he said, is Charles Harrison's personal assistant. He picked up the call and put it on speaker. Anand Patel speaking. Mr. Patel, thank you for holding. I have Mr. Harrison for you. Anand, Harrison's voice boomed, but this time it was different. It was the sound of a man who had just put out a 5-alarm fire. It's done. Charles, Anand said, his voice smooth and professional. To what precisely are you referring? Davies, Trevor Davies, he's gone, fired. His licenses are being reported to FINRA as we speak. His compliance record is permanently flagged for gross ethical misconduct and suspected criminal fraud. He will never work in wealth management in this country or any other ever again. I've personally seen to it. That was remarkably fast, Charles, Anand said. When we find cancer, Anand, we cut it out, immediately. We are sending a formal apology to Mr. Blackwell along with a gesture of our profound regret. That won't be necessary, I said, leaning toward the phone. Isaiah, you're there. Listen, man, from the bottom of my heart. I am sick about this. That this parasite was operating under my roof. I looked into his file. He's nothing. A mid-level broker with a high opinion of himself. He must have seen your local accounts assume that was all you had and thought he'd hit the jackpot by marrying your daughter. That seems to be the case, I said dryly. He's cleared out his desk. Security escorted him from the building just now. We've already had a compliance team sweep his office and freeze his client accounts pending review. As far as Crestview is concerned, Trevor Davies is a ghost. Thank you, Charles. You've been very efficient. You are a valued client, Isaiah, a foundational client. The least we can do is take out our own trash. Please let me know what else you need, anything. Just keep my name out of it, I said. This is a family matter. I don't want the publicity. Done, Harrison said. It's buried. Consider it handled. The line clicked. Anand and I sat in the silence of the massive suite. Well, I said, that's one piece of junk taken care of. He'll be home by now, Anand said, looking at his watch. He'll be walking into that brand new mortgage to the hilt house, with no job, no license, and no prospects. I stood up. I walked back to the window. The sun was starting to break through the clouds. What a shame, I said, taking a sip of my tea. He just bought that new BMW. How is he going to make the payments? Trevor thought he was a shark. He thought he was playing a game of high finance. He thought he had found a week-old antelope to drag down. He didn't realize he was just a loud, flashy lure on the end of my line. He thought he was the player. He was just a pawn. He disrespected me. That I could almost forgive. He tried to steal from me. That I expected. But he corrupted my daughter. He took the memory of Clara, her sacrifice, her $60 dress, and he spat on it. He took the 40 years of my life, the rain, the snow, the overtime, and he called it a transaction. I looked at my flip phone still on the table. Maya hadn't called back. She had received that legal letter by now. She was sitting in that empty White House waiting for her husband to come home. and he was coming home. But he wasn't the man who left this morning. He was a broken, useless, unemployed shell. The house is in jeopardy. The job is gone. The foundation of their entire relationship, which I now knew, was built on nothing but greed, and my money was crumbling. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But Clara's voice was in my head. Take care of our baby girl. Sometimes, taking care of someone doesn't mean protecting them. It means letting them feel the full crushing weight of their own choices. It means letting them hit rock bottom. Trevor just hit his. Now, it was Maya's turn. The door didn't slam. It clicked shut, a quiet final sound that echoed in the high-ceilinged foyer. Maya was sitting on the bottom step of the grand staircase, the legal letter from Patel and Associates crumpled in her fist. She had been staring at the number on that second page for 3 hours. $45 million. $45 million. The number just wouldn't make sense. It was a typo. It had to be a typo. Trevor stood in the marble hallway. His suit was rumpled. His $800 shoes were scuffed. He'd left the office that morning as a senior vice president of wealth management. He was returning as a ghost. His eyes were not angry. They were not sad. They were just empty. Trevor, Maya whispered, standing up. What happened? Did you talk to him? Did you fix it? He walked past her silent. His feet were heavy on the new hardwood floor. She heard him go into the kitchen, the clink of a heavy glass tumbler, the sound of a bottle being twisted open, a long, long pour. He came back into the living room holding a glass half full of amber liquid. Whiskey. Trevor, talk to me, she demanded. That letter, it said $45 million. Is it true? Is my father really a millionaire? Trevor let out a sound. It wasn't a laugh. It was a dry, broken bark of air. Oh, he's a millionaire, all right, he said, his voice raspy. He took a long drink. He's more than that, Maya. He's a whale. A whale. That's what they call them. The secret ones. The ones with so much money they don't even have a name, just a holding company. He's a foundational client. He's been with the firm since before I was born. He's the man who owns the building I worked in. He owns everything. What did he do? Maya asked, her voice small. What did he do? Trevor spun around, his eyes suddenly alive with a wild, terrifying energy. He made a phone call, Maya. 10-second phone call to my CEO Charles Harrison, who knows him personally. A phone call about what? About me, Trevor roared, slamming the glass down on a cardboard box labeled Kitchen Fragile. About his son-in-law, about the elder financial abuse, about being defrauded. He used all the magic words, Maya. No, she whispered. No, he wouldn't. He's my father. He wouldn't ruin you. I'm fired, Maya. The words just hung there. What? Fired. Gone. Terminated. My licenses are flagged. My compliance record is finished. I was escorted out of the building by security. They watched me pack my personal photos into a cardboard box. My career, Maya, my entire life, it is over. It's finished. He did that. No, we can fix this. We can explain. It was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. He laughed a high, crazy sound. He has an audio recording, Maya, of you screaming at him, telling him to go to a shelter, calling him a rat. He played it for my boss. How do I explain that? I was angry, she stammered. You were stupid, he roared, grabbing her arm. You were stupid and greedy. This was your plan. You said he was a broke old man. You said we could put him in the basement and he'd be grateful for the scraps. My plan, she shrieked, ripping her arm away. This was your idea. You told me to ask for the money. You ran the numbers. You were the one who told me he was an easy mark. You were the one who wanted this house. You were the one who said, get him out. And you went along with it, he shouted. Because you're weak, because you're just as greedy as I am. You couldn't wait to get your hands on that money. You couldn't wait to stop being the mailman's daughter. I did it for us. There is no us, he yelled. Don't you get it? It's gone. All of it. We have a 30-day demand for $170,000. We have a mortgage that the bank is going to call in tomorrow morning. And I have no job. We have no income. We are ruined, Maya. Ruined. He collapsed onto one of the new plastic-wrapped armchairs. He put his head in his hands. It's all gone. All of it. Maya stared at him. The man she had married. The man she had admired. the slick, confident, powerful man who promised her the world. He was small. He was pathetic. And her fear, the cold panic that had been gripping her for hours, turned into pure, white-hot rage. "So that's it," she said. Her voice was low and dangerous. "You're just giving up. You're not going to fight. You're not going to fix this." "Fix what?" "Maya," he said, his voice muffled by his hands. "How do you fight a man with $45 million and an army of lawyers? How do you fight a man who can end your entire life with one phone call? We didn't just poke a bear, Maya. We poked a dragon, and it just burned us to the ground. We lost." "So," she said, walking toward him, "the money's gone. The job is gone. What now, Trevor?" He looked up at her, and his eyes were dead. All the fake charm, all the performance, all the lies were gone. All that was left was the ugly, empty truth. "I guess the show's over," he said. What show?" "This," he said, waving his hand around the empty, cavernous room. "Us. This marriage. This house." "Trevor, don't say that," she whispered, a new kind of fear creeping in. We love each other." Trevor stood up. He walked right up to her, his face just inches from hers. That cruel, cold smile returned. "Love, you think this was ever about love?" He laughed in her face. "Maya, I married you because you were young, beautiful, and I thought your poor old dad would be an easy mark. A nice little inheritance down the line, a house to sell. I never ever thought he was the one holding all the cards." Maya staggered back. It was as if he had slapped her. You married me for my father's money." "What little money I thought he had." "Yes," he sneered. "What did you marry me for? My charming personality, my sparkling wit? No. You married me for my job at Crestview. You married me for the bonus checks. You married me for the BMW and the silk robes and the mimosa breakfasts. We're the same, Maya. We're two parasites who just lost their host." "You're disgusting," she whispered, tears of rage, not sadness, welling in her eyes. You're evil." "I'm honest," he spat. "For the first time in our relationship, I am finally being honest." "You want more honesty? Fine. You know Brenda, my assistant at the office, the blonde you always hated, the one you were always so worried about." Maya's face froze. "Yeah," he said, nodding. "We've been sleeping together for 6 months. She's the one who helped me run your father's credit report. She's the one who told me he was small fry, just a little fish. I guess she wasn't as smart as I thought." Maya's hand flew up and she slapped him across the face. The sound cracked through the empty house, sharp and final. Trevor just slowly rubbed his cheek. He didn't even flinch. "Feel better," he said. "Because you know what the funniest part is? You already knew." Maya stopped breathing. "You knew," he said again, his voice a low, cruel whisper. "I saw you check my phone last month. You saw the texts from Brenda. You saw the hotel reservations. And you know what you did, Maya. You did? Nothing. You said nothing. You went out and bought a new purse on my credit card. Because you didn't care what I was doing as long as the money kept coming in, as long as you got this big, stupid, empty house." "That's not true," she sobbed, the words weak and pathetic. "It's absolutely true," he roared. "You're just as much of a fraud as I am. But at least I was good at my job. You couldn't even manage to keep your own millionaire father happy for one weekend. You're useless." That was it, the final fatal blow. Maya crumpled. She slid down the wall and sat on the cold marble floor, sobbing. Trevor watched her for a moment. There was no pity in his eyes, only a deep, burning, final contempt. "I'm done," he said. He walked past her up the grand staircase. She heard him in their new empty bedroom, the sound of drawers being ripped open, hangers scraping. A few minutes later, he came back down. He was carrying a sleek, expensive Toomey suitcase. He was no longer wearing the crumpled suit. He was dressed in dark jeans, a black polo shirt, and his $800 shoes. He was ready to leave. Where are you going?" she cried from the floor. "Away. Florida, California, I don't know. Somewhere your father doesn't own. I'm going to start over, find a new name, a new job, something in sales probably. Something where my licenses don't matter. You can't just leave me, she screamed. You can't. The house, the loan, the letter from the lawyer Trevor. You can't. He stopped at the front door. He turned around and that slick, cold smile returned to his face just for one last terrible second. That's your problem, Maya, not mine. You wanted to be a team fine. You can take this loss for the team. But I have nothing. I have no job. I have no money. Trevor, please. He opened the front door. The bright, unforgiving sunlight streamed in. You have your father, don't you? The $45 million man. Go back to him. Go beg him. Go cry on his doorstep again. Maybe this time he'll let you in. Trevor. Goodbye, Maya. It was a bad investment. Time to cut my losses. He stepped out. He closed the door. She didn't hear a slam this time, just a soft final click. Maya was left alone. She was sitting on the floor of a house she didn't own with no job, no husband, and a legal notice for $170,000 sitting on her kitchen counter. She was surrounded by unopened boxes and a life that had just been canceled. She put her head on her knees and wailed. It was the sound of a person who had just realized she had absolutely and completely lost everything. I spent the next week in that hotel suite. It was the quietest week of my life. I had Anand Patel, my lawyer, handle everything. The lien was filed, the bank was notified. My old apartment was officially off the market, and my phone, my old flip phone, was silent. Not a single call from Maya, not one message. I guess it takes time to process that the father you thought was a beggar is actually a king. Or more likely she was simply furious, trying to find her own lawyer, trying to find a loophole. But Anand had built a fortress. There were no loopholes. I drank my tea, I read my books, I watched the city move below me, and I waited. On the 7th day, just as I was sitting down to my breakfast, the hotel phone rang. It was the front desk. Mr. Blackwell, sir, I'm terribly sorry to disturb you, but your daughter is here, in the lobby. Well, sir, she's causing a bit of a disturbance. I put down my coffee cup. A disturbance, Thomas. She's not well, sir. She's disheveled. She's crying. She's demanding to see you. She says you're being held here against your will. I've tried to explain that you're our guest, but she's hysterical. She's screaming. We have other guests, sir. I closed my eyes. So this was the next move. Not contrition, not an apology. A public spectacle. I'll be right down, Thomas. Please don't call security. Just keep her there. I didn't rush. I finished my coffee. I put on a pair of simple dark gray trousers. I put on a cashmere sweater, a dark blue one that Clara had given me for my last Christmas. I put on my good leather shoes. I brushed my hair. I looked in the mirror. I was no longer the old wet mailman. I was Isaiah Blackwell. I took the private elevator down to the lobby. I could hear her before I saw her. A raw, wailing sound that echoed off the marble walls. I stepped out of the elevator, and I saw her. The manager, Thomas, was right. She was a ghost. She was a wreck. Her hair was greasy and matted, pulled back in a desperate knot. She was wearing what looked like the same clothes she'd had on 3 days ago, a stained t-shirt and old yoga pants. Her eyes were swollen red and wild. She was pacing back and forth in the middle of the lobby while a young security guard stood nearby looking terrified. "Where is he?" She was screaming at the front desk. "I know he's here. He's my father. You can't just keep him." People were staring. The elegant guests having their morning coffee were watching with a mix of pity and disgust. She saw me. Her face crumpled and she ran. She didn't just walk. She ran, stumbling on the thick Persian rug. "Daddy!" she wailed. She collapsed at my feet. She literally fell to her knees on the cold marble floor and grabbed the leg of my trousers. "Daddy, please, please, you have to help me. You have to—" The piano player stopped. The entire lobby went dead silent. All you could hear was my daughter sobbing. I looked down at her. This was the woman who had slammed a door in my face, the one who had called me a rat, the one who had told me to go to a shelter. The manager, Thomas, rushed over. "Mr. Blackwell, I am so sorry. I'll have security remove her at once." I held up one hand. "No, Thomas, it's all right. She is with me." The manager looked horrified, but he nodded. "As you wish, sir." He and the guard retreated to a respectful distance. I looked down at Maya. Her face was buried in my pant leg. "Get up, Maya," I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the silence. "I won't," she sobbed. "I can't. Not until you listen. Please, Daddy, you have to help me. He's gone." "Who is gone?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Trevor," she wailed. "He's gone. He left me. He packed his bags and he just left. He said the show was over. He said I was useless. He said I couldn't even keep my own father happy." "I see. He tricked me. Daddy, it was all him. He told me you were an easy mark. He told me you were old and confused. He said all we had to do was ask and you'd give us the money. He made me say those things at the door. He said I had to be strong. He said you were a burden." She looked up at me, her face a mess of tears and makeup. "It was all him. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted him to be happy." I just looked at her. I didn't move. I didn't bend down. I didn't comfort her. "And you," I said, my voice cold and flat. "You believed him." Yes. "I don't know," she cried. "He was so confident. He promised me everything. This house, the cars, the life. I just wanted—" "You just wanted the money," I said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. "No," she yelled. Then her voice cracked. "Yes." She whispered, her fight suddenly gone. "Yes. I wanted it. I wanted it so badly." I let the silence hang in the air. I let her kneel there. I let the entire lobby watch. "Why?" I asked, my voice still quiet. "Why, Maya, I never raised you to be this way. I raised you to value honesty. I raised you to value work. I raised you to be proud of who we were." "Because I hated it," she suddenly screamed, lifting her face to me. It was a cry from the very bottom of her soul. "I hated it. I hated being the mailman's daughter. I hated my secondhand clothes. I hated that all my friends at school, their fathers were lawyers and doctors. I hated that they went to Europe for the summer and I went to the public pool." Her voice was raw. "I hated that you were always so simple, so proud of being poor. I didn't want to be poor. Daddy, I wanted to be them." She gestured wildly at the elegant people watching us who quickly looked away. "And Trevor," she choked out. "He wasn't simple. He was shiny. He had the right car, the right suit, the right answers. He promised me I would never have to be the mailman's daughter again. He promised me I would be someone." So that was it. All my life I thought I was protecting her from the poison of wealth. I thought I was teaching her humility, but I wasn't. I was just making her thirsty for it. I had hidden my success so well I'd made her ashamed of the very thing I was proud of, my simple, honest life. "And now look at me," she sobbed, hitting the marble floor with her fist. "He's gone. The bank is taking the house. I got a call this morning. A certified letter. The bank is foreclosing. They said my name is on the loan too. I'm bankrupt. I'm ruined. I have nowhere to go." She looked up at me, a horrible, desperate, dawning realization in her eyes. "I'm you," she whispered in horror. "I'm the person you pretended to be. I'm a broke, homeless person with nowhere to go." She scrambled to her feet. She grabbed the front of my expensive sweater. "Daddy, please," she begged. "You have to help me. The $45 million, I know you have it. The letter said so. Just give me the money back, the $170,000. I can fix this. I can pay the bank. I didn't move. I just looked at her hands, her beautifully manicured nails digging into my cashmere. I slowly, deliberately unhooked her fingers from my sweater. I took a step back. "So that's it," I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the lobby. "You're not here to apologize, Maya. You're not here because you're sorry for what you did. You're here to make another withdrawal." "No," she cried. "No, that's not—" "Get your hands off me," I said. "You're embarrassing yourself, and you're embarrassing me." "I don't care," she shrieked. "I need help. You're my father. You owe me." That was the word. Owe. "I owe you nothing." "Maya," I said, "I gave you a life. I gave you my love. I gave you 45 years of my time, and you spat on it. You and that parasite, You slammed the door in my face. You called me a rat. You told me to go to a shelter. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. You meant every word of it. You just didn't know I was rich when you said it. You thought I was weak. You thought I was junk. You thought the deal was done. You were wrong. I saw the look on her face. The final awful realization. She had failed. The test was over. The money wasn't coming. And just like that, the hysteria vanished. The anger drained away. The performance stopped. She just crumpled. She didn't fall. She just deflated. She stood there in the middle of that opulent lobby, a broken 35-year-old woman in dirty clothes. "Okay," she whispered. The fight was gone. "Okay, you're right. I came for the money. I came because I had nowhere else to go. I'm just like him. I'm just like Trevor. I'm a monster." She just stood there and wept. Quietly, hopelessly. This was the true rock bottom. Not the poverty. Not the foreclosure. This. The moment she finally saw herself. I watched her for a long, long time. The manager was hovering his face a mask of professional concern. I thought of Clara. Take care of our baby girl. Don't let the world break her. But what do you do when she's the one who's trying to break you? "Go home, Maya," I said, my voice heavy. I don't have a home," she whispered, wiping her nose on her sleeve. "The bank, they're changing the locks tomorrow." "That is not my problem," I said. The words were hard like stones, but they had to be said. "You are 35 years old. You are healthy. You are educated. Go get a job. Go rent a room. Go figure it out, like I did." She turned her shoulders, slumped in defeat. She started walking toward the spinning glass doors. I watched her go. My daughter, my baby girl, walking out of my life. "Let her go," a voice in my head said. "She made her choice. She's not your problem anymore." But another voice, Clara's voice, whispered, "She's always our problem, Isaiah. You don't throw family away. You just have to teach them, even when it hurts." She was almost at the door. Her hand was on the glass. "Stop," I called out. The word was sharp. She froze. She didn't turn around. "I have a meeting," I said, my voice loud in the quiet lobby. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m., my lawyer's office. Anand Patel. You know the name. It's on the letter." She turned around slowly. Her face was a mask of confusion. "A meeting what for? To sign over the house?" "I am not giving you money, Maya," I said, my voice hard as steel. "I am not saving you. I am not paying your debts. You will lose that house. You will lose everything. You will go bankrupt. Do you understand me?" She nodded, biting her lip. "But," I said, "after you have lost everything, after you have truly hit the bottom, I have a proposition, a way for you to start over, a real start, from nothing." "What kind of proposition?" she whispered. "Be there, 10 a.m., don't be late." I paused, letting her hang on the one tiny thread of hope I had given her. "And Maya, yes, come alone. Don't wear those clothes. Take a shower. Find some dignity. And don't you ever lie to me again. This is the last chance you will ever get." I turned my back on her. I walked to the elevator. I didn't look back. I pressed the button. I heard the elevator ding. I stepped inside. Just before the doors closed, I heard her a small, broken whisper from across the lobby. "I'll be there." The law offices of Patel and Associates were on the 35th floor. The room Anand had chosen for this meeting was not a comfortable office. It was a boardroom. A long, dark mahogany table that felt a mile long. Black leather chairs that were so deep you felt like you were being swallowed. On one side of the room, a wall of glass looked down on the entire city. It was a room designed to make you feel small. It was a room designed for executions. I sat at the head of the table. I was wearing my dark blue cashmere sweater, the one Clara had bought me. I felt calm, Anand Patel sat to my right, a thin digital tablet in front of him. He was the picture of an expensive, dangerous calm. Maya sat far down the table to my left. She was clean. She had showered. Her hair was pulled back. She was wearing a simple gray dress. She looked like a defendant. She hadn't said a word since she entered the room. She just stared at the polished wood of the table, her hands clenched in her lap. The door opened, and a fourth person entered. He was a man in a rumpled suit carrying a heavy, overstuffed briefcase. He looked stressed. "Mr. Henderson," Anand said, standing up. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." "Let's just get this over with, Mr. Patel," the man said, sitting down heavily. He didn't look at me or Maya. He just opened his briefcase. "This is highly irregular." This was Mr. Henderson, a vice president of foreclosures from the bank that held the mortgage on Maya's new white farmhouse. "Irregular, perhaps," Anand said, sitting down, "but necessary. Ms. Blackwell-Davies, this is Mr. Henderson from the bank." "Mr. Henderson, this is my client's daughter, Maya. As we are all here, perhaps you can begin, Mr. Henderson. Please summarize the bank's position for Ms. Blackwell-Davies." Mr. Henderson put on his glasses. He pulled out a thick file. He was all business. He was a man who foreclosed on 6 houses before his morning coffee. "The position is straightforward, ma'am," he said, directing his words at Maya. "You and your husband, Mr. Trevor Davies, secured a mortgage for $620,000 based on a down payment of $170,000. Correct?" Maya just nodded, her throat working. "However," Henderson continued, "a senior lien was filed against the property by IB Holdings last week. This lien is for the amount of your down payment, $170,000 plus accrued interest. This legal action constitutes a catastrophic breach of your mortgage covenants." He looked up at her over the top of his glasses. "Your mortgage agreement states very clearly that if the collateral that is the house is compromised, the bank has the right to accelerate the loan. We are accelerating the loan. The full amount, $620,000 plus fees, is due immediately." Maya's face was white. Immediately. What does that mean?" "It means," Henderson said, his voice flat, "that you are in default. We sent a certified letter to your husband this morning. The bank is foreclosing on the property. We will be taking possession of the asset. An eviction notice will be posted by a sheriff's deputy tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. You will have 48 hours to vacate." Maya let out a small, strangled sound. She turned to me, her eyes wide with pure, undiluted panic. Daddy, please. This is the meeting you brought me here to watch this, to watch them take my home." I said nothing. I just looked at her. "Please," she cried, sliding out of her chair and onto her knees on the thick carpet. She crawled the few feet to my side. She grabbed my hand. Her hands were ice cold. "Daddy, I'm sorry. I know I messed up. I know I was awful. I'm a monster. I know. But please, not the house. It's all I have left. Trevor is gone. My credit is ruined. I'll be on the street. Please." Her apology was just a jumble of panic. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry for what was happening to her. She was sorry for the consequences. I looked at her kneeling at my feet. This was the same daughter who had called me a rat, the same one who told me to go to a shelter. "I'll do anything," she sobbed, her tears splashing onto my trousers. "I'll get a job. I'll pay you back. I swear I'll pay you back every cent. I'll give you $50 a week for the rest of my life. Just tell them to stop. You have the money. The $45 million. You can just pay them." "Pay them," I repeated. My voice was hollow. "Yes, pay the bank. You can fix this, please, Daddy. Please don't let me be homeless." I looked at Mr. Henderson. He was pointedly staring at his watch. This was not part of his schedule. I looked at Anand. He was staring at me, his face a perfect professional mask. He was waiting for my signal. I looked down at Maya, my baby girl, the one I had raised, the one I had sacrificed everything for. She was broken. She was at the bottom. This was the moment, the final test. I waited until her sobs quieted down to just shaky, desperate breaths. "Okay," she whispered, finally letting go of my hand. She sank back onto the floor. "Okay, I get it. You're not going to help me. You brought me here to watch. You brought me here to punish me. Okay, I deserve it. I'll go pack my things." She was finally done begging. She was finally done negotiating. She just accepted it. This was the moment I was waiting for. I let the silence hang in the room for 1, 2, 3 long seconds. Then I spoke. "Mr. Henderson," I said. My voice was clear and strong. He looked up, annoyed. Yes, Mr. Blackwell. You're right. The bank's position is perfectly clear. The loan is in default. That's what I said, he huffed. But, I said, leaning forward, I believe you are mistaken about one very small, very important detail. Henderson frowned. Mistaken, sir. Our legal department has reviewed this. Our numbers are solid. Oh, your numbers are solid, I said, but they're out of date. You see, Mr. Henderson, your bank cannot foreclose on that house. A flicker of confusion crossed his face. And why is that? I didn't answer him. I just nodded at Anand. Anand Patel slid a single crisp file across the dark mahogany table. Mr. Henderson, Anand said, his voice as smooth and cold as glass. While we appreciate you coming, your presence is no longer required. You see, your bank doesn't own that mortgage anymore. Henderson picked up the file. He opened it. His eyes scanned the front page. His face lost all its color. This is impossible, he stammered. This says IB Holdings. This says you purchased the entire mortgage note this morning for $623,000. As of 9:15 a.m. to be precise, Anand said. Your acquisitions department was very accommodating once they realized who Mr. Blackwell was. Your bank has already been paid in full. You have no more claim. You are no longer a party to this discussion. Thank you for your time. Henderson just stared at the paper. He looked at me. He looked at Maya, who was still on the floor, completely lost. He looked back at me. This is highly irregular, he said, his voice weak. My client, Anand said, is a highly irregular man. Good day, Mr. Henderson. The bank vice president stood up slowly like a man in a dream. He put the file back in his briefcase. He nodded once stiffly, and he walked out of the room. The door clicked shut, leaving just the three of us. Maya was staring at me. She was frozen. She didn't understand. What just happened? She whispered. What did he mean? You bought it. She slowly got to her feet. Daddy, she said, a tiny, fragile spark of hope igniting in her eyes. You paid the bank, you saved the house. I said nothing. You did it, she whispered, taking a step toward me. You saved it. For me. Oh, Daddy, thank you. I knew you wouldn't. I knew you. She was about to run and hug me. The daughter who thought her rich father had finally swept in to save her from her bad decisions. I held up one hand, palm out. Stop. She froze, her arms half raised. I did not save the house for you, Maya. The hope in her eyes died instantly. It was like blowing out a candle. I don't understand. I told you at the hotel, I said. I am not saving you. I am not giving you money. I am not paying your debts. I told you that you would lose that house, and you have. But you just bought it. You just said, I bought the debt, Maya, I said, standing up. I was tired of sitting. I walked to the window and looked down at the city. I am now the sole lien holder. I am the one you owe the money to. I am your bank. I own the mortgage. I own you. She just stared at me. And, I continued, I am not giving you this house. I'm not that foolish, not anymore. Then you're just going to kick me out yourself, she whispered, her voice breaking. Is that it? You just wanted to be the one to do it. You seem to think, I said, turning to face her, that there are only two options, that I either punish you or I save you, that I'm either the angry old man or the rich fool. I walked back to the table. I am neither. I am doing what I should have done from the very beginning. I am doing what your mother would have wanted. I am taking my name and my money and Clara's memory completely out of your hands. I nodded at Anand. He slid a second file across the table to her. This one was different. It was bound in a simple, elegant blue cover. What is this? She asked. That, Anand said, is a quitclaim deed and a charter document. As of 10:15 a.m. this morning, your father, Mr. Isaiah Blackwell, signed over his entire interest in the property, the mortgage, the deed, everything to a new legal entity. The house is no longer his. Maya fumbled with the cover. She opened it. She read the first page. The Clara Blackwell Trust. She read, her voice full of confusion. What is this? What is the Clara Blackwell Trust? I looked at my daughter. The daughter who had been corrupted by greed, who had been blinded by dollar signs, who had been willing to throw her own father into the street for a pile of bricks. The Clara Blackwell Trust. I said, my voice finally soft, is a non-profit foundation I established last week. In your mother's name, its mission, its only mission, is to provide transitional housing job training and support for homeless women and families in the city. I pointed to the papers in her hand. And you, my dear, I said, are currently sitting in its very first property. Maya looked at the paper. She looked at me. She looked at Anand. She didn't get it. I don't understand. Let me be perfectly clear, I said. You don't have a home. You are not a homeowner. You are not an heiress. As of this moment, Maya, you are a tenant. You are squatting in a house that belongs to a charity. Maya just stood there. The silence in that boardroom was heavier than stone. She wasn't crying anymore. She was just empty. The shock was so profound it had burned away the tears. Charity, she whispered. Her voice was dry like paper. Anand Patel spoke. His voice was no longer smooth. It was the clinical, detached voice of an administrator. The Clara Blackwell Trust is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization, Ms. Blackwell Davies. It is now the legal owner of the property at 415 Willow Creek Drive. As Mr. Henderson correctly noted, you have no legal right to be there. I watched her face. I was looking for something. Remorse. Number understanding. Not yet. All I saw was the blank animal confusion of a creature caught in a trap it never saw. She still thought this was a game. She still thought she could negotiate. But it's me, she said, her voice rising just a little, a desperate childish whine. I'm your daughter, and that's Mom's name, the Clara Blackwell Trust. She wouldn't want this. She wouldn't want to see me homeless. That was the wrong card to play, using Clara, using the memory of the woman she had helped Trevor disrespect. The cold anger I had felt on that rainy doorstep, the anger I had held down for 40 years, it returned. I spoke. My voice was very, very quiet. Don't you dare speak her name. Maya flinched as if I had struck her. You don't get to use her name as a shield, Maya. Not after what you did, not after what you've become. Your mother saved $60 by giving up a dress she loved. She saved $1,000 by taking the bus in the snow. She put every dream she ever had into that fund, the fund you and your husband tried to steal. I stood up from my chair at the head of the table. You didn't just spit on me, Maya. You spat on her memory. The Clara Blackwell Trust is not for you. It's to protect her legacy from you. So that's it, Maya whispered, looking at Anand, then back at me. I'm just out tomorrow with the 48-hour notice from the bank. The bank is no longer involved, Anand said, his tone neutral. But yes, the trust takes possession of its assets immediately. The eviction notice will be served by a sheriff's deputy tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. You will have 48 hours to vacate. So I'm homeless, Maya stated. It was a fact. Yes, I said. You are. Just like you screamed at me to be. You're broke. You're in debt. You have no husband. You have no house. You have no job. You are, for the first time in your 35 years of life, completely and totally on your own. I walked over to the window, looking down at the city below. Welcome to the bottom, Maya. How does it feel? She just stared at me. The reality was finally sinking in. This wasn't a punishment. This was just the truth. She didn't cry. She just nodded. A small, jerky, defeated movement. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I get it. You win. You wanted to punish me. You did. I'll be out by tomorrow. She turned to leave, her shoulders slumped. She was accepting the consequence. This was the moment, the exact moment I was waiting for. However, Anand Patel said, his voice cutting through the silence. Maya stopped her hand on the massive boardroom doorknob. She turned around slowly. The trust, Anand continued, looking down at his digital tablet, is not an unreasonable entity. We are a charity after all. And you, Ms. Blackwell Davies, you are a person in a desperate housing situation. You fit our criteria. Maya's face was a mask of confusion. What does that mean? I turned from the window. It means the trust. Maya is willing to rent you the house. Her jaw dropped. Rent my house. It is not your house. I corrected her, my voice sharp. It has never been your house. It is the trust's house. And yes, you can stay as a tenant, not as an owner, not as an heiress, as a tenant, with a lease and monthly payments. Rent, she stammered. But with what money? I don't have a job. Trevor, he took all the credit cards. The bank accounts are frozen. I have $22 in my purse. That, I said, is the second part of the arrangement. You will get a job. You will get 2 jobs if you have to. You will pay the rent on time every month, no exceptions, no help from me. How much rent? She whispered. She was dreading the answer. Anand spoke, his voice void of all emotion. The fair market rate for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home in that school district with current property taxes and insurance factored in is $3,150 per month. $3,000, she shrieked. That's impossible. I can't. No one would pay me that much. I have no skills. I have a degree in art history. What am I supposed to do? Then you'd better learn some new skills, I said. You are 35 years old. You are healthy. You are educated. You speak English. There are people in this city who work 3 jobs, ride 2 buses, and still don't make that much. But you have an advantage. You have a roof over your head, for now. But a job where I took a walk this morning, I said, leaning back against the windowsill. The coffee shop on the corner of Elm and 5th, the Daily Grind. They have a help wanted sign in the window. Barista, minimum wage, plus tips. If you start tomorrow and you work a 60-hour week, you might make rent, if you're frugal. The humiliation on her face was total, from a senior VP's wife in a new BMW to a minimum wage barista just to rent the very house she thought she owned. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this to me? Why not just kick me out? This is cruel. It's torture. Cruel. I stood up straight, my voice rising for the first time. Cruel is telling your 71-year-old father to go to a shelter. Cruel is calling him a rat after he just gave you his life savings. Cruel is slamming a door in his face while he stands in the rain with his dead wife's picture. That is cruel, Maya. I walked toward her, stopping a few feet away. This is not a punishment. This is a curriculum. This is the education I clearly failed to give you. This is the lesson your mother, Clara, who worked at a library for 20 years, would have demanded I teach you. She flinched at the mention of her mother. This is your one and only chance, Maya, I said, my voice low. It's the last one you're going to get from me. You will learn what it means to work. You will learn what it feels like to earn $1 instead of just taking one. You will learn the value of a roof over your head because you will pay for it yourself. You will learn humility. You will learn respect. I paused, letting the words sink in. Or you will fail, and you will end up in the shelter you so casually recommended for me. The choice is yours. The trust doesn't care either way. It's just an asset. I nodded at Anand. He picked up a new thin folder from the table. It wasn't the fancy leather-bound one. It was a standard cheap blue folder. He slid it across the table toward her. A standard 1-year lease agreement, Anand said. First month's rent due in 30 days. There is no security deposit as the trust is a charitable organization. Consider that your only gift. I looked at my daughter, the woman who had tried to destroy me. She was trembling. She looked at the cheap blue folder. She looked at me. I saw a war in her eyes, the pride, the humiliation, the blind, furious anger of a spoiled child. She wanted to scream. She wanted to throw the folder in my face. But then I saw that pride break. It was replaced by the cold, hard, desperate terror of having absolutely nothing, of being $22 and 48 hours away from the street. She had no choice. We both knew it. She walked to the table. Her hand was shaking so badly she could barely pick up the cheap plastic pen Anand had left there. She didn't read the terms. She didn't try to negotiate. She just flipped to the last page and signed her name on the tenant line. I'll start at the coffee shop. Tomorrow, she whispered. Good, I said, turning back to the window. Your first rent payment is due in 30 days. Do not be late. The trust is very strict about its accounts. She wouldn't look at me. She just clutched her copy of the lease and walked out of the boardroom. The door clicked shut, leaving Anand and me alone in the vast, silent room. He watched her go. That was difficult, Isaiah. Are you sure she has it in her? She's my daughter, Anand, I said, watching her small, defeated figure disappear down the hall. She's also my greatest failure. I'm just trying to fix that. And the $45 million your inheritance for her, he asked. It stays where it is, in the trust. This isn't about the money. It never was. I wasn't sure if she'd make it. I wasn't sure if she had the strength. Part of me, a small dark part, almost hoped she would fail. But a bigger part, the part that still held Clara's memory, hoped she would learn. I had just shown her that she was already broken. And now she had to learn to put the pieces back together. By herself. The hard way. The only way that matters. 6 months passed. 6 months of silence. The seasons changed. The cold, wet November rain had long since vanished. Now it was May. The city was warm. The trees on my street were full of new green leaves. I received 6 rent checks. They arrived at Anand Patel's office on the 1st of every month. Never a day late. Always for the exact amount. $3,150. Anand told me they were always money orders purchased with cash from a grocery store. She had never called me. She had never asked for help. She had never missed a payment. I decided it was time. Anand had drafted a clause in the lease agreement that allowed for a semi-annual inspection of the property. It was a standard clause meant for any tenant, but we both knew it was really for her. It was a check-in. I didn't drive one of the quiet, expensive cars Anand kept for me. I didn't take a cab from the Grand Royale. I went to my old dusty storage unit. I got into my old car, a 1998 Buick LeSabre. It smelled like dust and old vinyl. It sputtered to life on the 3rd try. I drove myself. I drove out of the city toward the suburbs. The neighborhood looked the same. The big white identical houses still stood too close together. But hers, 415 Willow Creek Drive, it was different. Trevor's BMW was gone. In its place, parked in the driveway, was a battered 15-year-old blue Toyota Camry. There was a long gray smear of duct tape holding the back bumper on. The yard, the mud patch, was gone. In its place was a patchy, uneven lawn. Someone had tried to mow it, but they'd missed a few spots. And by the front steps, in 2 cheap terracotta pots, someone had planted marigolds. They were small, bright orange and struggling. But they were alive. I parked the old Buick at the curb. I walked up the concrete path. I rang the bell. I waited. I didn't hear any loud music. I didn't hear any laughter. I just heard a dog bark somewhere down the street. I heard the sound of the deadbolt being unlatched. The door opened. It was Maya, but it wasn't Maya. Her hair was cut short in a simple, practical bob. There were no expensive blonde highlights. It was just its natural, plain brown color. She was thin, thinner than I had ever seen her. There were dark circles under her eyes. She was wearing a polo shirt, a faded, awful shade of coffee brown. It had a logo stitched on the breast pocket, The Daily Grind, with a little cartoon steaming cup. She had a matching brown apron tied around her waist, stained with something. She saw me. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She just looked tired, so incredibly tired. "Dad," she said. Her voice was quiet. "You're here." "I'm here for the inspection, Maya," I said. My voice was official. "For the trust. I'm required to look at the property." She just nodded. "The inspection? Right, of course." She stepped back from the door. "Come in." I stepped inside. The change was shocking. The grand 2-story foyer, it was empty. The giant crystal chandelier that Trevor had been so proud of was gone. In its place was a simple bare bulb. The gleaming marble floor was clean, but scuffed and dull. I walked into the living room, the room where Trevor had sneered at me. The oversized white leather sofas were gone. The giant 80-inch television was gone. The glass and chrome coffee table was gone. In its place was a lumpy floral print sofa that I recognized from the Goodwill donation center. It was clean, but the fabric was worn thin on the arms. There was a small 20-inch television sitting on a stack of milk crates. The house was clean, spotless in fact, but it was barren. It was an empty, echoing box. "You sold everything," I said. It was the only thing I could think of to say. "I had to," she replied. She didn't make excuses. "The rent. $3,000. It's a lot." She walked into the kitchen and I followed. The furniture, the big stuff. It was all leased in Trevor's name. When he left, the rental company came and took all of it. The sofa. I bought that myself. It was $45. The TV was a curbside find. The screen is a little green, but it works. She saw me looking at her uniform. "I'm sorry I'm not dressed," she said, untying the stained apron. "I just got off my shift. I work the opening shift, 4 a.m. to 2 p.m. "How is the job?" I asked. A small, bitter smile touched her lips. "It's hard. It's really hard. It's really..." She walked to the sink and filled a simple glass with tap water. "You want one? I don't have any bottled water. It's too expensive." "No, thank you." She drank the entire glass in one go as if she hadn't had water all day. "My feet," she said, talking to the sink. "I never knew my feet could hurt this much. I stand for 10 hours. 10 hours, Dad. And people are mean." "Mean? Yeah." She leaned against the cheap laminate counter. The gleaming granite countertops Trevor had bragged about were gone. She must have sold those too. "They're mean. They yell. They yell at you because their latte has too much foam, or not enough foam, or because the milk is 2 degrees too hot. Yesterday, a woman, she looked just like Trevor's mother. She threw her cup at me, at my head." My hands tightened into fists. "What did you do?" "I dodged it," she said, her voice cracking. "And the coffee went all over the floor. And she screamed at me that I had made her spill it, and that I was an incompetent idiot who couldn't even pour coffee right. And my manager, he made me apologize to her. He said, 'The customer is always right.'" I just stood there. I couldn't speak. "So I apologized," she whispered. "I said I was sorry, and then, after she left, I went into the back and I cleaned the employee bathroom, because that's my other job, barista and janitor. I sat on the floor next to the toilet and I cried. I cried for an hour, because she was right. I am incompetent. I'm 35 years old, I have an art history degree, and I'm cleaning toilets for $9 an hour." She finally turned to look at me. Her eyes were red, but the tears weren't falling. "I make $9.25 an hour, Dad. I did the math. I have to work almost 340 hours a month just to pay the rent for this empty box. Before taxes, before food, before the car insurance on that piece of junk outside." She let out a sharp, ragged breath. "I don't know how people do it. I don't know how you did it for 45 years. How did you get up every day and carry that heavy bag in the rain, in the snow, and not just lie down and die? How did you do it without hating everyone?" I looked at my daughter who had finally asked the right question. "You don't hate them," I said, my voice softer than I intended. "Because you're not doing it for them. Who do you do it for? You do it for someone, so," I said. "I did it for you. Your mother and I, we did it for you. So you would never have to know what this feels like. And look how I repaid you," she whispered. She turned away ashamed. "I was a monster, Dad. I know that. I see that now. Every time a customer yells at me, I see your face, standing on the porch in the rain, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." This was different from the screaming, terrified apology in the hotel lobby. This was quiet. This was real. This was the sound of a broken person who was finally facing the truth. I just nodded. "The house looks fine, Maya. The trust will be pleased you're keeping it clean." I turned to leave. The inspection was over. The lesson was in progress. "Wait," she called out, her voice suddenly urgent. I stopped. I turned back. "I know I don't deserve anything. I know that. And I'm not asking. I promise. I am not asking you for money. I will never, ever ask you for money again." "What is it, Maya?" She ran to the kitchen counter. There was a small, neat pile of mail. It was the only thing on the counter. Bills, probably. She fumbled through it. She pulled out a large manila envelope. She held it out to me. Her hands were shaking, but it wasn't from fear, it was from hope. I just wanted to show you this. It's not much, and I'll probably get rejected. My grades from college, they were okay, but not great. I partied a lot. Trevor, well, it doesn't matter, but I had to try. I took the envelope from her. It was from the city university. I opened the flap. It wasn't an acceptance letter, it was an application. I pulled out the papers. It was a partially filled out application form for the graduate program. And on the line where it said program of study, she had written in a neat, careful, determined handwriting, Master of Social Work. I stared at the paper. I looked at her in her stained brown uniform, her with the cheap marigold struggling in pots out front. Social work, I said. My voice was thick. Why this? Because, she said, twisting the hem of her apron. I've been talking to people, the other women I work with, the ones who take 2 buses to get there at 4 a.m., the single mothers, the ones who are 1 bad week away from being homeless. She took a shaky breath. I want to help them, she said, her voice finding a new kind of strength, a strength I had never heard before. I think maybe I can. I know what it's like to be at the bottom. I know what it's like to be greedy and selfish and stupid. And I know what it's like to need help. I want to be the person I should have been. I want to help people, for real, not for show, not for money. I looked at the application in my hands. Master of Social Work. She wasn't asking me for money. She was showing me her work. She was showing me her change. She was showing me her penance. This was not the woman who had slammed the door in my face. This was not the woman who had cried for $45 million in the hotel lobby. This was someone new. This was someone Clara would have recognized. You'll need letters of recommendation, I said, my voice thick. I had to clear my throat. It's a very competitive program to get into. Her face fell. I know, she said, her voice small again. I don't know who to ask. All my old references, they were Trevor's friends. And my old art professors, I don't even know if they'd remember me. I looked at the application again. I folded it carefully. I slid it back into the manila envelope. I handed it back to her. I might know someone, I said. Her head snapped up. Her eyes were wide. Who? A man who runs a rather large charitable trust, I said. A man who sits on the advisory board of the university. I think he would be very interested in your story. I think he would be very impressed to see someone who's learned the difference between having a price and having value. She stared at me confused. What man? Who are you talking about? I smiled. For the first time since I'd walked into this house, a real warm, genuine smile. Me, I said. I'll write your letter of recommendation, Maya. I'll write it myself. Maya's acceptance letter to the university was a small, thin piece of paper, but it felt heavy in my hand. I didn't just write a letter of recommendation. When you have the kind of resources I do, you don't just write letters, you make calls. I had called the dean of the university, a man whose name was on a library wing my trust had quietly funded 5 years ago. I didn't ask him for a favor. I simply told him a story. The story of a 35-year-old woman raised in privilege who lost everything. And instead of breaking, she chose to clean toilets for $9 an hour. I told him this woman was now applying to their Master of Social Work program. And I told him the Clara Blackwell Trust was establishing a new $500,000 scholarship specifically for non-traditional students, women who were rebuilding their lives from scratch. The dean was, as you might imagine, very accommodating. Maya was accepted 2 days later. She came to the hotel. I led her up to the suite this time, the first time she had ever seen it. She walked in slowly, her eyes wide, taking in the fireplace, the marble bar, the view of the entire city. She was still wearing her brown barista uniform. Dad, she said, her voice shaking as she held out the acceptance letter. I got in. I don't understand. They said I was a priority candidate. They mentioned a scholarship, the Clara Blackwell Scholarship. She looked at me, the understanding dawning in her eyes. That was you. I just nodded. Your mother always valued education, Maya. The hope in her face vanished as quickly as it came. She crumpled onto the edge of a silk armchair. It doesn't matter. I have to decline. Decline, yes, she said, her voice flat with defeat. I can't accept it. I can't go to school. I have to work. The rent, the house. I did the math again. I have to work 65 hours a week, Dad. 65, just to pay the rent and the utilities. I can't be a full-time student and work 65 hours a week. It's impossible. I have to turn it down. I see, I said. So you'll just stay at the coffee shop? I have to, she said, her voice cracking. It's the consequence, right? It's the lesson. I accept it. No, you don't, I said. She looked up confused. What? You don't have to decline the offer, Maya, and I am not going to pay your rent for you. Then I don't understand. Anand Patel is on his way up. The trust, it has a new proposal for you, a job offer. Anand arrived exactly 10 minutes later. He was not the cold, detached lawyer from the boardroom. He was smiling, a warm, genuine smile. He shook Maya's hand. Ms. Blackwell Davies, or should I say Ms. Blackwell, I hear Mr. Davies has officially signed the divorce papers. He has, Maya whispered, her eyes on the floor. Good. Then, Ms. Blackwell, congratulations on your acceptance to the university. The board of the Clara Blackwell Trust is very, very impressed. Maya looked completely lost. The board, you told them about me, about the coffee shop. They've been monitoring your progress very closely, Anand said. You have not missed a single rent payment. You have maintained the property impeccably. You have held down a grueling minimum wage job for 6 months without a single complaint. You have not asked your father for $1. You have shown grit. You have shown character. I just sat back sipping my tea. This was Anand's show. The trust, Anand continued, has a logistical problem. We have just this week acquired 5 other properties from bank foreclosures. We are moving faster than we anticipated. We need a manager, a property manager. Maya just stared at him. A what? We need someone to oversee these properties, someone to coordinate the repairs, the cleaning, the placement of tenants, someone to work with the social workers, like the one you are about to become. We need someone who understands the mission. We need someone who knows what it's like to be one bad week away from the street. He slid a new thin folder across the coffee table. We are offering you the position, Ms. Blackwell, property manager for the Clara Blackwell Trust. Maya looked at me, her face pale with shock, then back at Anand. You're offering me a job. We are, Anand said. It's a full-time position. It comes with a salary, a fair one. Not a Trevor salary, you understand, but a good, solid, respectable salary, enough to live on, enough to raise a child on, enough to pay for your books and your tuition. A salary, she whispered. But the rent, the house. Even with a salary, I can't work a full-time job, go to school full-time, and pay $3,000 in rent. Ah, Anand said, his smile widening. That is the best part of the offer. The house at 415 Willow Creek. That is part of the job. Maya's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I don't understand, she finally managed to say. The house at 415 Willow Creek, I said, finally speaking up. It's too big for you, Maya. It's an empty, echoing box. It's a waste of space. But it's perfect as a headquarters. A headquarters? It is the first official Clara Blackwell Trust home, I said. A transitional home for women and children, women running from men like Trevor, women who have nowhere else to go. The other 5 properties will be secondary units, but that house, your house, will be the main base. Your job, Maya, Anand said, tapping the folder, will be to live there. You will be the resident manager. You will live in the master suite rent-free. That is part of your compensation. Your work will be to turn the other bedrooms into safe, clean, welcoming spaces. Your work will be to coordinate with the social workers. Your work will be to use your education, the one you are about to get, to help those women find jobs, to help them find dignity, to help them, like the barista at the coffee shop, rebuild their lives. Maya finally broke. She didn't wail like she did in the lobby. She didn't shriek like she did on the doorstep. She sat back on that silk sofa, put her face in her hands, and she wept. They were quiet, heavy, cleansing tears, the sound of a crushing weight finally being lifted. You're giving me a purpose, she choked out through her sobs. No, Maya. I stood up. I walked over to the sofa and sat beside her. I placed my old rough hand on her shoulder. I am not giving you anything. You earned this. She looked up at me, her face a mess of tears and confusion. You earned it on your feet for 10 hours a day, every day for 6 months. You earned it scrubbing toilets. You earned it by not calling me, by not begging me for money when I know it was the hardest thing you've ever done. You earned it when you decided to study social work instead of complaining about your art history degree. You earned it, Maya. You earned it when you chose to be better. She leaned her head on my shoulder just like she used to do when she was a little girl back when she was my baby girl. I'm so sorry, Daddy, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I know, I said. I know you are. We sat there for a long time, just a father and his daughter, in a quiet, expensive room. She left an hour later. She didn't take a cab. She said she was going to take the bus. She had the job contract in her bag. She was terrified. She was excited. She was new. Anand stayed behind, packing his briefcase. That was a risky move, Isaiah, he said quietly, giving her that much responsibility, that much trust. It's the only way, Anand. The only way she'll truly heal. You can't just teach someone a lesson. You have to let them live the lesson. He nodded. And what about you, my friend? What about the 45 million? What is your legacy? I smiled. I looked out the window at the city. My city. My name is Isaiah Blackwell. I'm 71 years old. And I'm finally done carrying the mail. I am not saving my daughter. I don't need to. I gave her the chance to save herself. The $45 million. It's all going to the trust when I pass. Every last cent. Maya will never inherit it. She will never be a rich woman in the way Trevor understands the word. But she will have a home. She will have a purpose. She will have a good, solid job that she earned. She will spend the rest of her life helping people who are just like she was. She will be rich in a way that money can never, ever buy. She will be rich in character. She will be rich in dignity. She will be rich in humility. And that is the only legacy that matters. That is the diadem of Clara. And that is the sweetest revenge of all. Here is the lesson learned from this story. This story teaches us a powerful and sometimes painful lesson. True wealth is never measured by a bank account, but by our character, our integrity, and the respect we show to others. Greed and arrogance can blind us, making us betray the very people who have loved us the most. But true love isn't about enabling bad behavior. It's about setting boundaries and demanding respect. It teaches us that it is never too late to learn humility, and that the only inheritance that truly matters is the dignity and strength we build within ourselves. What would you have done in my place, and do you believe Maya has truly learned her lesson?